Oh,
Good afternoon, everyone, at least those of you here on the West Coast. This is Peter Weiler. I'm your host today for the DVMUG Zoom meeting for December 17th, 2024. We will work with the same kind of format as in the past, starting out with a bit of Apple news. I don't have too much to share there. Following that will be 5 or 6 videos. We'll see how long it takes given feedback on them. Um, Altogether, they run about 32 minutes, so it's not too great a amount of video for you to watch. I think you'll handle it well. Beyond that point, we will have the question and answer period. If you have any questions that you want to ask, you might uh, put them into the comments, send them off to John Sobrero on the BBS. At any rate, we hope to hear from you. And finally, we'll finish up with what we call a social hour. It depends on how many minutes we have left, but that's what we do. So let's get started with the news. Um, as oh, get this thing, okay. As usual, we have a listing of the 4 news events, along with the links for each of them. So you can find these on the DVMUG BBS in the DVMUG folder, or I believe John has put them into the comment section for this meeting. So you can actually click on those links and actually go to the full articles. And I recommend you actually, if you're interested in the topic, read the full article because you'll get a lot more information that way. Anyway, starting with the first one, uh, in iOS 118, I think somebody made a typo there. In iOS 18.2 Live, um, there is a whole slew of new Apple Intelligence features, and this article helps you use them. So, Apple Intelligence is Apple's version of AI, and it's been gradually coming into Apple software and hardware. Um, 18.2 actually has a fair number of new features. Um, the problem is if you don't have an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, or even a newer iPhone 16, you're not going to be able to use these particular features. Um, but for those of you who have them, you're all set. Um, you can see 6 different features listed. I will give you a brief description of what they are. If you are like me, you don't have an iPhone 15 or 16, so you'll have to wait for later to get to these. Image Playground is Apple's new AI image generator that lets you turn a description or person into an image, uh, and they have some fun style options. Jamoji lets you create your own emoji using the keyboard. Um, and Apple Notes can also be shared as stalkers or tapbacks. Writing tools describe your change. Well, in writing tools, if you describe your change, the new feature lets you describe a specific change that you want to make to your text, such as adding a more dynamic version of it or um, summarizing. Visual intelligence helps users instantly learn about objects and places. And thanks to the new camera control on the iPhone 16 series, it's able to do that. Um, the article talks about, think of it as Google Lens on steroids. Chat GPT integration. For those of you who've played around with Chat GPT, it certainly is a very powerful app. Siri can now tap into GPT, sorry, with your permission to answer questions and requests. Users can ask ChatGPT to help compose original content in writing tools, as well as generate images. And finally, Image Wand transforms a rough sketch into a polished image that can complement your notes. It works with the Apple Pencil on the iPad. So those are very brief descriptions of what these new features do. Are there any comments? I do have one myself. Has anybody with an iPhone 15 or 16 experimented with any of these? Okay.
I'm curious how many people have an iPhone 15 Pro or something in the 16 series that actually can access any of these features yet. I see Jan's hand, I know, and Dakota, and I know Rick does, and Richard, and I don't know who who a lot of people have their cameras off, so they might be in Lee. Denny, you want to tell us about your experiences with stuff yet?
Okay, well, maybe we should move on then.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the next article. And I need to click on it. So Congress, that's our US Congress, is asking Apple and other big tech firms what they're doing about deep fakes. Actually, I find deep fakes or deep fake an interesting word because it's actually one of those kinds of words that's a blend of two words. And it now has become part of the American English lexicon, unfortunately, because of what it actually is describing. So, tech executives like Tim Cook have been getting letters from Congress questioning them about what they're doing to control or suppress the deep fake um, use. And what's been happening recently is that they have been promoting use of uh, apps in order to take somebody else's face and put them on pictures of nudes or other pornographic kinds of images. Um, and then some of the real malicious people will try to blackmail people with this kind of thing. So Congress is literally asking Apple what it plans to do to stop this. And there is the Take It Down Act. I've looked into it, and if I understand it properly, this is not a law yet, but it has the support of the US Senate. It's still kind of held up in the House of Representatives. At any rate, though, Congress wants Apple to take steps, and they talk about dual use apps, which is how the bad guys can make this work. Um, the It's interesting that the following questions were asked of Tim Cook. So this is what our congressional representatives are doing now. And first, what plans are in place to proactively address the proliferation of deepfake pornography on your platform? And what is the timeline of deployment for these measures? What individuals or stakeholders, if any, are included in developing these plans? What is the process after a report is made, and what kind of oversight exists to ensure that these reports are addressed in a timely manner? And what is the process for determining if an application needs to be removed from your store? Well, in fact, there's one other one too. What, if any, remedy is available to users who report that their image was included non-consensually in a deep fake? Now, it's not just Apple that has been dinged with this. There are people in Google and a lot of the large tech firms. Um, so, that 26 members of Congress have signed this letter, and you can actually, if you go to the article, you can get a link to the letter to see exactly what was said. I've said enough about it. Are there any comments or questions?
I'm way more concerned about political disinformation deep fakes than porno.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm probably have a passing interest in porno, but when I guess what I don't understand is this AI ability to take heads from one and put it to another has always been there. It's just now it's easier for people like me to do it. Is that what I'm understanding? I mean, good video photo editors and everybody else could always have gone back and taken it down to the pixel level and put someone else's face on a fish body or something, as I understood it. I'm not sure what they're upset with now, other than now the masses have access to this inform ability or whatever, I guess.
Interesting point, Mike.
I don't, yeah, I just don't see it.
Anyone else?
If they put my head on somebody else's body, well, that's a win-win for me. I've seen my body. It's not worth.
I'd like to add to that, and that's one thing. Before, it was a lot of work to be able to do that. Now we have AI, which we instruct. We give instructions to do certain things, and believe it or not, with almost no time whatsoever, there it is. You know,
Yeah.
before it would take days or hours to be able to do something like that. Now AI does it by itself by just asking it.
Mhm. This is true.
Okay, so
But what is a dual purpose app? Did you learn that in your reading, Peter?
I did not take the time to check that out, but evidently Apple's software that is being objected to provides for dual purpose apps. And I think that therefore, Apple never had the intention that users would create pornographic images of their neighbors or enemies or whatever, but they had other kinds of purposes built into what the power of the app. Um, but specifically, I don't know. Somebody could look that up quickly. Um, okay, shall we move on?
Last night, well, let me make one comment. So last night at the Silicon Valley Mac User Group, the presentation was on online security. And one of the things that the presenter mentioned is that at this point, the App Store is full of fake AI apps that appear. And I've seen that myself. Like if you go to get the Chat GPT app, you're presented with all these other apps that look just like it, that are trying to sell you an app that actually are basically just a repackaging of the same thing, what you could get for free, but with a different skin on it or something, that like to confuse you. That's always been a problem with the Apple app stores anyway, is that you go to look for an app and it shows you other apps that it's confusing about which is the app you actually want. But they were saying that there's really a proliferation of AI apps that aren't really particularly apps, that aren't what you want. So you should be cautious about going in and looking for anything AI related at this point in the iOS and Mac app stores.
And we've had a need to be very cautious about non-AI apps all along because there have constantly been a slew of pretenders that try to market themselves. But let's go ahead and move on. Um, this one shouldn't take much time. Snoopy screensavers arrive on Apple TV with TV OS 18.2. I don't have Apple TV, but I love Snoopy and the Charles Schultz characters. And if one of you has it and has seen, this is a still, I think probably the actual screensaver has some interesting animation to it, but I wasn't able to find that. Um, at any rate, TV OS 18.2, if you have Apple TV, you should install it. It does have a few bug fixes and upgrades to performance, but the big deal, I guess, is the new screensavers. Um, if you like to watch the old Peanuts movies, like a Charlie Brown Christmas, there was a Halloween Charlie Brown movie, and so forth. Uh, they are no longer available for just plain viewing, but you can stream them free if you have Apple TV Plus. So there's that. Any comments?
One thing, Peter, that people should know that there's a distinction between Apple TV, which is a gadget, and Apple TV Plus, which is a streaming service.
Ah,
And you said earlier that if you don't have Apple TV, you should install it. You can't install it unless you buy the device.
well, I don't recall saying that.
That's actually not true. There's the Apple TV device, there's the Apple TV streaming service,
Right.
and then there's the Apple TV Plus premium service, which is available.
Service.
So I can install Apple TV on my streaming service on my Fire TV. I can then subscribe to Apple TV Plus, but so
Are
the
you
Apple
certain?
TV streaming service does not require.
Are you certain about that?
Yes,
I'm not aware of an Apple TV service that is free.
yeah. There's a lot of they're willing to sell you all the other premium services within it. There's a limited amount of free stuff, but mostly they're just like all the other platforms. Each platform is willing to sell you the other platforms as subsets within it.
Mhm.
Well, I never found it on the Roku store, but
Yeah.
okay.
I know that you can, as a new subscriber, you can get a free 11, 19 days or whatever it is
Yeah.
before
The Apple TV app is included on all newer versions of Mac OS and iOS. The app itself is there.
Huh.
Okay.
You need the door open?
Well, let's go ahead and move on. So the final item in the news is that President-elect Donald Trump hosted Apple CEO Tim Cook at Mar-a-Lago. So these men had a conversation. Trump has been meeting with a lot of the tech bigwigs, Sam Altman of OpenAI, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta, and Jeff Bezos of Amazon, just to name some. And evidently, they're smoozing up to Mr. Trump. During his previous administration, starting in 2016, uh, there was kind of a break going on with these tech people. So I think they're trying to repair channels.
Yeah.
And evidently, Trump talked to Cook about Apple's ongoing tax battles with the European Union. Um, so Any comments?
Just today, Dick Bobo from Virtual Harbor posted in the bulletin board that Trump has agreed to waive all tariffs on Apple products from China. And of course, I commented how disgusting that was, that this guy will do anything if he gets flattered. But the worst part of it is that it creates inconsistent policies, which perplexes the lines of government. God help us.
I agree. Totally.
Who got $1 million towards his inauguration from
And he gave him an Apple Pro, assembled in the USA.
His argument was, if you tax all Chinese products and you raise tariffs on all the stuff made in China sold by Apple, who's that going to benefit? Samsung.
Yeah.
Correct. Nevertheless, if you have a policy, it should be well thought out before you implement it. Once implemented, one should adhere to it.
Here, here.
It's a nice thought, but really?
Well thought out is not what we voted for, apparently.
No.
Well,
Not me.
No, I hear you.
let's go ahead and move on to the videos. Okay. So once again, there is a sheet that has the links to each of these videos. These are actually tiny URL links that make them shorter and easier to keep track of. At any rate, they go to the same links, and if you like one of these videos, you might just want to make a quick copy of the link. Let's go to the first one.
Get the most out of your devices by using iPhone mirroring. You can use your Mac to wirelessly interact with your iPhone and its apps while it stays securely locked nearby. Here's how. Before you start, make sure you're using a Mac with Apple Silicon or an Intel Mac with a T2 security chip. Your Mac and iPhone should be updated to the latest operating system and signed into the same Apple account. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth also need to be on. Ready? Let's get started. To use iPhone mirroring on your Mac, open the iPhone mirroring app from the dock or your applications folder. The first time you use iPhone mirroring, a short setup will appear. Click Continue, and you'll be prompted to unlock your iPhone so you can use it with your Mac. Just enter your passcode on your iPhone. Then, on your Mac, choose if you'd like to allow notifications from your iPhone, and click Get Started when it's ready. You can now lock your iPhone and set it aside. A window shaped like your iPhone screen will appear. Just use Touch ID or enter your Mac login password to authenticate. On your Mac, you'll be asked to select how you'd like to authenticate when you use iPhone mirroring. You can choose for your Mac to ask for your login password or Touch ID every time, or choose to automatically connect without authenticating whenever your Mac is unlocked. We'll choose Authenticate Automatically. You might need to enter your Mac login password again to enable automatic authentication. Then click OK. You can now control your iPhone on your Mac. You can use your mouse or trackpad to open apps, swipe, and scroll. And if your app has audio, it will play through your Mac speakers or connected headphones. You can also click the home bar at the bottom of your iPhone screen while using an app, or press Command-1 on your Mac keyboard to return to the home screen. Or move the pointer over the top edge of the display area and click the Home Screen button. Next to the Home Screen button, you'll find the App Switcher button, which you can use to close or switch between your open apps. You can swipe up with 2 fingers on a trackpad or 1 finger on a magic mouse to close your apps. To exit the App Switcher, just click the blurred space around your apps. On the home screen, you can even rearrange your apps and edit widgets like you would on your iPhone. Just click and hold an empty space on the screen until all the apps jiggle. And click and drag to move one. Click Done when you're finished. To access your iPhone mirroring settings, click the iPhone mirroring menu on your Mac. Then choose Settings. Here, you can adjust your authentication settings, and you can click the Revoke Access button if you want your Mac to forget the current iPhone you're using and start over. When you're done, click the Close button to close iPhone mirroring settings. If you click the View menu, you can view keyboard shortcuts for quick navigation and adjust the size of the iPhone mirroring window. You can also use the keyboard on your Mac to type on your iPhone. Let's select Journal and write a quick entry. All done. Now, let's work on our Mac and iPhone together. We're going to continue working on a project in Keynote on our Mac. And on our iPhone, we'll open Photos. When using iPhone mirroring, you can drag and drop items like photos right into documents, notes, emails, and more. Just drag it from the iPhone mirroring window directly into the space you want it on your Mac and release. With a few adjustments, this will be perfect. When you get a notification specific to an iPhone app, it will appear alongside your Mac notifications in Notification Center. If your iPhone is nearby, you can click the notification, and the app will open in iPhone mirroring. This lets you use both of your devices at the same time on the same screen without ever picking up your iPhone. All right, let's close this Keynote so we can focus on our iPhone again and return to the home screen. If you unlock your iPhone while using iPhone mirroring, you'll get a message in the window on your Mac letting you know that iPhone mirroring has automatically ended. To immediately reconnect, just lock your iPhone, and on your Mac, click Connect. But if you're done, you can click the Close button or press Command and Q together on your keyboard. And that's how your iPhone and Mac can work together with iPhone mirroring. To learn more about your Apple devices, subscribe to the Apple Support YouTube channel, or click another video to keep watching. iPhone mirroring is not available in all countries or regions.
I found that really quite interesting, and I know that I have trouble typing text. I can do voice to text to the degree that that works well, but typing text on an iPhone is challenging for my 80-year-old fingers. So,
Torture.
yeah. So being able to use the keyboard on a desktop or a MacBook is really, I think, a big plus. And the fact that you can also drag and drop between the phone and the desktop seems like good stuff to me. Any other thoughts?
I find a lot of, so the first thing I thought of about mirroring was for like rearranging apps on on the various desktops, the phone desktops. But I find that's actually, since the arrow keys and none of that stuff works in mirroring, at least on my keyboard, older keyboard, I find it's actually easier to do it on the phone itself than using iPhone mirroring. And most things, like for instance, typing text, I wouldn't type text on the phone from the keyboard because I would use most of the apps where I do that are in iCloud, so I can use the Mac version and it automatically appears in the phone version. But in this video, they showed one where you couldn't do that, which is if you're using the iOS journal app, because that's iOS only. But I don't use that app anyway. I use Day One, which So I type on my Mac and it's available on my iPhone too, because it's cross-platform.
Just a quick comment, Peter. Sorry, I use the voice command in text when instead of typing, I'm hitting the mic and just speaking whatever it is instead of typing.
Voice to text is powerful and really wonderful. I do recall, though, once I was sending a text to the minister of my church, and I don't recall exactly what I said, but when I looked at the iPhone right before pushing send, I had made a really off-color, rude comment, and I thought, what? You know? Yeah. So yeah, be careful with voice to text. Be sure to look at what you're sending.
So Peter, where have you found you'd use your keyboard through iPhone mirroring that you couldn't just do, say, in the Mac messaging app?
Well, Kenji, to be honest with you, I haven't done iPhone mirroring such as was laid out. Now, I think that it requires continuity, and I'm not sure what iOS that appeared in. Although I'm up to date on iOS, so it shouldn't be a problem with my phone. Anyway, shall we move on to the next video? This one is from Gary. He's talking about Apple Intelligence tools in iOS 18.2. And we have explored that a bit. Now we let Gary do his thing.
Hi, this is Gary with MacBoast.com. Let's take a look at the new Apple Intelligence features in iOS 18.2. So iOS 18.2 brings a lot of new Apple Intelligence features to your iPhone. Now, unfortunately, these features are only available on the iPhone 15 Pro models and all the iPhone 16 models. If you have an older iPhone, even if you update to 18.2, you won't find these features there. There are also some restrictions based on region and language. I'll talk more about languages at the end of this video. Now, first, let's talk about writing tools. Writing tools were added in 18.1, but there's a big improvement to them now. For instance, let's say you're writing in an app. I'm going to use Mail as an example here, but this could be Pages, it could be Notes, it could be a website or some other app. And let's say you've selected some text and you want to use AI tools to rewrite it. So you can look for in the menu here the writing tools, and that's one way to bring up the writing tools here. And like before, you have the ability to rewrite it, and you could rewrite it friendly, professional, or concise. But now you have this extra thing up here where you could describe your change. So you could type something instead of just using one of those three buttons. You could do something like this, and then when you execute that, it will actually rewrite it following your instructions. Now, it doesn't work with anything that you type. So, for instance, you could type something like this, and then when you try this, it's just going to tell you it can't do it. So there are limits. But here's a more reasonable example. This time I'm going to use the toolbar up here. Tap this, and I'm going to describe a change like this. So you can see in this case, it does work, and it will produce a result. Now, another option that you've got is you can now, in addition to rewriting things, you can use a compose button. So I'm going to scroll up here and you can see compose, and I could describe something and it will compose new text. Now notice right here, get this little symbol, that's the ChatGPT logo. It's going to use ChatGPT for this. So you can see how something like this might be useful information in an email, and I can compose there. It's going to call out to ChatGPT, and it's going to paste the text in. So you can see I've got that there. Now, that's your text to edit, so you can edit it as you like, or just pull out a piece of information and delete the text it generated. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacBoast at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now, I mentioned how that used ChatGPT. If you go into the Settings app and go to Apple Intelligence and Siri, you'll see now that there's a ChatGPT part here. You can go into that, and you can actually log into your ChatGPT account if you have one. If you don't want to, that's fine. You'll just be using ChatGPT anonymously. but logging in might give you more prompts per day if you're paying for a plan, and it might then relate things to other things that you've added to your ChatGPT account. Now, integration with ChatGPT also helps improve Siri. So you can ask Siri questions. And like before, you're going to get a lot of answers that come from Apple Intelligence, like this. What is the fastest marine mammal? And you can see here, it returned an example from Wikipedia. It says that there, and it didn't use ChatGPT. But let's do something that will force using ChatGPT this time. Give me a list of the best 10 states to vacation in. And you can see there it says working with ChatGPT because it recognizes it's something Apple Intelligence can't handle on its own. And then you get a result here, and it indeed tells you at the bottom that it is ChatGPT generating this result. So Siri gets a lot more powerful thanks to ChatGPT. Now, iOS 18.2 adds 2 ways you can use Apple Intelligence to generate images. One of them is using Image Playground. So you can run the Playground app. It's just a regular app like all the others. Run that app. And then what you could do here is describe an image you want. One of the key ways that Image Playground is different than image generation AI, say like DALL-E or Midjourney, is it's tied into your Photos app, into the people there. So notice one of the suggestions there is me. You can actually very easily pull faces from your photos and use them as the basis. So you can create comic book looking illustrations of you and your family members and friends very easily with this. I'm going to select me here, and it's pulling on all of the different times I appear in all of my photos. And then it generates an image like that. And I can also use some of these other suggestions. So for instance, if I were to choose scarf here, it's going to add that as an idea, and then it's going to regenerate the image. And sure enough, I'll be wearing a scarf. If I choose volcano, then guess what? It's going to put me in front of a volcano. So you could see the result here. You can also use these dots here to flip over to the next one and then keep going. And when it actually runs out of them, it's going to generate more. So you can keep going until you find an image that you like. Then when you're done, you can tap here and you can copy this image. You can share it. You can save the image. It'll save the image here in the app so you can get back to it and even continue editing it later on. Now, there are 2 different styles here as well. You can tap the plus button here and you can switch from animation to illustration, and you get a very different looking style. Now, you can also just type something to generate an image. You don't have to use the suggestions there. So I can go in here and I could type something like that and then done. And then I can remove these other items. Let's remove me and scarf and volcano and just stick with my description there. And now you can see it generates this road in the forest. I'm sticking with the illustration here. And you can see how this might actually be a useful image, say, in a presentation. Now, there's another way you could use Image Playground. It's called Image Wand, and it works here in the Notes app. So let's say you do a simple drawing in Notes. I am horrible at drawing, so this is the best I could do, but hopefully you could tell I'm trying to draw a teacup. Now, if you go back into the drawing tools, you have all the different pencils and things like that, but you also have this Image Wand tool right here. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to circle this image. And then it's going to sometimes ask me to add a phrase. So I'll do that, and I will generate. And you can see it's going to take my drawing here and the description, and it generates a teacup from that. So you can pretend that you're better at drawing than you actually are. Now, a different way to generate images is using a feature called Genmoji. In other words, generate your own emoji characters. And the way you do that is you go to type, say you're going to type in a message here in the Messages app. You're going to use emoji. Notice it says describe an emoji now instead of search. And you could start describing there, but you could also tap this little button here to the right, and then it will jump right into the new Genmoji interface. And you could describe something. If you write a description that could be a person, it's going to try to generate something that looks like an emoji character. So I'll do that, and you could see it's going to generate like a pirate emoji. And just like with Image Playground, you can swipe to the left and get variations on that. If, on the other hand, you describe something that wouldn't be a person, like that, then it will try to draw an object. And you could further refine, like that. And you can see you get that there. So Now you can add, and what it'll do is it'll add that to your message, and it looks like an emoji character. It's actually a little inline image. So the person on the other end doesn't need to have this character. They won't. But what they're going to get is a little inline image that then they would see in their text. But also notice how it is added right here to your favorites. So you could get back to it and reuse this if you want. Not only that, you can use it in other apps. So here I am in Notes, and I'm going to go in and I could generate a new emoji character, or I could just use the one that I just created. It'll even work in apps like Pages as well. I can add that in Pages. It's just an inline image. So you can see here in Pages, it actually appears pretty large. Maybe in the future, Pages might handle a little differently, but it's just an inline image there. And this also works on the Mac, but you can't create them on the Mac. You will find them added via iCloud to your favorite emoji characters, and you can use them in different apps. And apps on your Mac will be able to have the embedded image, since an embedded image isn't anything particularly special. It's the generation of these that is special in iOS 18.2, not just using an image like this. Now, another new feature of Apple Intelligence that only works in the iPhone 16 models is to use that camera button to use visual intelligence. Visual intelligence allows you to use the camera app, and they get information about what your camera sees without taking a picture. So you can point it at, say, a poster for an event, and then maybe add that event to your calendar. Or maybe if you're standing in front of a restaurant, you can point your camera at the restaurant and then get information about it, menu reviews, things like that. Now, I also don't want to overlook a huge new Apple Intelligence feature for people in the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa, is that these features will now work set to English for your region. Before, even the iOS 15.1 features didn't work, but iOS 15.2 brings that up to date. And of course, Apple is going to be working on adding more countries to that in other languages, including eventually countries in the EU as they work those details out. So if you've got an iPhone 16 or an iPhone 15 Pro model and you've upgraded to iOS 18.2, give these a try. This also works the same on iPad OS 18.2 if your iPad is one that supports Apple Intelligence. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Well, as usual, Gary gets a lot of information into a short time. And that, I think, really expands on what we were looking at with the artificial intelligence article, or Apple Intelligence article, I should say. Any other comments?
Yeah, I played around with Genmoji the other night, and I was totally underwhelmed with it. I didn't go to the lengths that he did, but when I tried to send that Genmoji to somebody, it was microscopic. They couldn't see it.
Huh.
So I don't know. It seems like just a what would you call it? Just a little something extra. Nothing. I don't think that's going to be productive. I could be wrong.
Yeah. My hunch, Rick, is that it's going to get much more usable, and bugs like it being extremely tiny and things like that will probably be the first to go. But I, for one, don't really use emojis hardly at all. So, yeah, but
For the kids. It's for the kids.
I'm out. I didn't realize there's supposed to be this stuff's supposed to be productive. Sorry.
The kids love it.
Well, if you're, say, going for a building permit and you wanted to use that magic wand thing, I think that'd be useful.
I confess I use them now and again.
You use a what?
I use them now and again, emojis.
Oh, yeah, the emojis. Yeah, I use them once in a while.
You know, depending on who, you know.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next video. This is on how to free up storage space on your Mac. I imagine those of you with Macs, MacBooks, have dealt with this issue, running out of storage space. And what Apple probably really wants is that you just buy more, subscribe to more space in the cloud, spend more money that way. But it is possible to get a lot of your important documents, just keep them on the Mac, and the storage tends to be increasing as the years go by. The amount of terabytes keeps expanding, let alone gigabytes and so forth. At any rate, how to do it is a little tricky. And this particular 3-minute piece is by Apple support and worth a look.
Want to free up space on your Mac? Here are some tips for making the most of your storage in Mac OS. We'll show you how to use the built-in storage management recommendations and how to free up space manually. Before you start, it's a good idea to make a time machine backup in case you'd like to retrieve something you've deleted. If you delete something during this process, you won't be able to get it back unless you have a backup. First, let's find out how to free up space using the built-in storage management recommendations. Click the Apple menu in the upper left corner of your screen. Then click System Settings. You might need to click General first, depending on your version of Mac OS. Then, click Storage. It might take a moment or two to load. Recommendations are storage management suggestions based on how much storage you have and which types of files are using the most space. These recommendations might be different depending on your current settings. When you turn on Store in iCloud, your Mac uploads your desktop, documents, photos, and messages to iCloud, and only recently opened files and files you've chosen to keep downloaded will stay on your Mac. You also might find recommendations for Optimized Storage. When you turn it on, media files, using a large amount of space, that you don't need anymore are automatically removed, like purchased TV shows and movies that you've already watched. You can download these again at any time. When you turn on Empty Trash Automatically, files you've moved to the trash will be permanently deleted after 30 days. You can also free up space manually. Here are a few ideas to get you started. Your files, folders, photos, and apps are listed alphabetically, and the storage amount is displayed next to each category. We're going to review our app list. Click the Info button next to a category and select what you'd like to delete. For example, we're going to delete this extra copy of GarageBand. Click Delete when you're ready, and click Delete again to confirm. You can also manually delete other things, like your documents, photos, and more. Depending on what you're deleting, you might need to type in your login password. When finished, click OK. If you still need ideas on how to create more space, you can also move large files to an external storage device or delete files manually from the Finder. Click Done when you're finished. And those are just a few ways to get started with freeing up space on your Mac. Time to get organizing. Want to learn more about your Mac? Subscribe to the Apple Support YouTube channel or click another video to keep watching. Some sequences in this video were shortened.
Any comments on this?
I got a question. When she says Apple Support User Channel, what is she talking about there?
On YouTube, that video was from YouTube. You go to Apple and you search for Apple Support. A lot of these videos that we show that are from all the videos we show that are from Apple come from there.
Okay, so that answers my question. Thanks.
Yeah, you can go to YouTube and log in with your Gmail account and subscribe to the different channels. And so you can go back and find them easily when there's new content.
Yeah.
They're usually very good and not very long.
Yeah. Good question. And
Why
go ahead, please.
their email
You're muted.
base? It's
Can't
just
hear you,
amazing.
Sylvia. Yeah. Unmute. Go to the menu bar, the bar at the bottom left, and push the red thing and
Why?
permanently.
Okay, why is it that emails, which you could have tens of thousands, and it takes up very little space?
Emails without attachment take up almost nothing. Emails that somebody sends you a movie or lots of pictures could equal thousands of messages with no attachments. Text takes no space. It's the media that takes the space, the attachments.
Oh,
Yeah. Also, your email service, Yahoo, Gmail, whatever, they're actually storing all this email on their site. So, yeah. Anything else? Okay. The next video that I have for you, it's a bit of an indulgence on my part. It's an advertisement that Apple has made that's it's quoted as Heartstrings. It's intended to touch your heart. And actually, I think it's really well done. My professional field was education of the deaf. And so I know a lot about hearing loss, both with children and with adults, and social implications that this can have. At any rate, this is only 1 minute 50 seconds, so let's have a look. And if it will play. Any thoughts?
That's nice. There's a 30-second version that Apple is playing a lot on TV right now, where the girl starts playing the guitar and mom says, listen, and he puts in his hearing aids and hears the music clearly. That's the 30 seconds. But the longer version is cool. Thanks.
And I have actually said it at previous meetings that I'm really quite excited about the technology because earbuds with the ability to actually diagnose hearing loss and set the device to specifically to the levels of one's individual loss. No two hearing losses are exactly alike. And so there's a potential for really a lot of support for people with hearing loss who might not be in a position to afford big, largely expensive professional grade hearing aids. And as John Sobrero has mentioned, he likes his very much, but they are only able to run for what, half an hour, something like that.
No. They run for 6 hours.
6 hours.
Where my
Right.
real hearing aids, they'll last all day, but they don't. The real hearing aids don't have the quality of sound. I mean, they just
Right.
the Apple AirPod Pro 2 have a really good sound, and I lose them a lot. I use them during the meeting. I use them on the Apple TV to listen to the TV, and the Apple TV, the new OS, has a feature called voice isolation. And even with people who can hear well, when there's music and noise, you can't hear what people are saying. And some people turn on closed caption and stuff. Well, it has a feature. You turn it on, you can level up how much you want to isolate the voice, and it will lower the volume of the music and isolate the voice so you can hear it. And that, in conjunction with the hearing aid feature of the AirPods, makes listening to TV excellent.
Mm-hmm. Well, and given how much truly worthwhile hearing aids can cost, I think that the future is bright here. There's a likelihood that the technology will continue to improve.
And
Uh,
they've been on sale at Amazon during Black Friday and still now, I think, I got this pair I have now for $90 off. Instead of $250 retail at Apple, they were $155. With
right.
the return period of 90 days for the holidays, if you don't like them, you don't have to return it. So instead of first pair I bought that didn't work right was only 2 weeks.
Well, it's until January 31st on Amazon.
Right.
Oh,
So
it's no
depending on
longer
where you bought
90
them,
days.
I bought them earlier in December,
Yeah.
so it was like, gave me like 90, whatever, it was said 90.
So you're not talking about the the AirPod Pros.
AirPod Pro 2 has the
Oops.
hearing aid feature. That's
Yeah,
not
but it's not $100 and something, is it?
retail is $250 and they've been on sale for like $90
$159.
off,
Yeah.
160.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So,
if you can return them, those of you who might be struggling with your hearing a bit, you might consider giving them a try. Um, if it doesn't work out, you can send them back.
what
Jan
if I
has
have to
a
combine that with
question.
a regular hearing aid somehow? It's a standalone, at least partial solution.
If the batteries lasted all day, like real hearing aids, it would be the ultimate solution.
Yeah.
That's the main drawback is they don't last all day. My hearing aids, I put them in, I don't think about them, and sometimes I don't even, all day and forget to take them out. The other thing is they're easy to fall out. These things can fall out. That's why I have these loops. The hearing aids, almost all hearing aids these days, they're so small they go behind your ear and they have a little loop, and then there's a little loop. They don't fall out. They stay in there. You forget they're even there.
Jan Chesney has a question.
Oh, thank you. I was at a party Sunday night where it was really crowded. The acoustics were terrible. People were just yelling to talk to the person next to them. I could not hear a thing. I mean, it was so frustrating. I went home.
That's a problem.
So with these things, are you saying that with the iPhone and the AirPods, it would get rid of that background noise?
They have a feature called, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's been out for a while, and I just noticed when I'm listening to TV and sister comes in and asks me something, it lowers the voice of the TV and I can talk to her without doing any hands on her. It just automatically does it. And then when she's done talking, it goes back, the sound goes up. So I don't know about in a crowded, they do have noise isolation that's designed for like being on an airplane or something where it cancels that.
My hearing aids have a setting for speech and noise.
So do mine.
Right.
And they also have a setting I can just set my phone out there in the middle of a table of like 6 or 8 people, and it picks up with like a microphone.
Yeah, mine too.
But it's
The
the
noise
same thing.
reduction works really well on mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with AirPods. That's exactly what it does.
Yeah, but mine run all day.
But yeah, that's the thing.
Like
Like mine is showing 74% charge now, and we've been on for what, 2 hours?
The other drawback is I have some older ones and the batteries are getting weak. They only last 3 hours instead of 6 hours. Batteries are not replaceable. When the batteries
Right.
go bad, you can't do anything about them. They'll give you a minimal amount of trade-in for some new ones, but you can't replace the battery.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
maybe there'll be some competition that'll change that at some point. I
How
hope.
long had you had them, John, before they went bye-bye?
John, did you get that question?
What was the question?
John, how long did you have them before they went bye-bye with the battery dying?
Oh,
Well, they're not gone. They're reduced to 6 hours to 3 hours on the old ones. I got them from Ann. She didn't use them. They're pretty old at this point. I've had them for several years. I don't know when she got them, how old they actually are. They deteriorate over time like any other battery. At one point, there was a company that you could send them to, and they would like somehow they figured out how to open them up and put batteries in them and send them, and it wasn't that much of a discount really from buying a new one, but they went out of business. They're not doing that anymore.
Now, in my opinion, if we're talking about something that costs $200, and it's going to last for a year or two,
Oh no, I would imagine I've had them for several years, and they were
mhm.
not new when I got them from Ann.
There you go. I mean, that I think it's one of those things that, yeah, buy it.
There's another thing that I got. Apple owns Beats. That's an Apple
Right.
brand of headphones. They're kind of similar. And here they are, these little Beats, I think Beats Solo something. They were rumored when they came out, it was a big deal. They last 18 hours on a charge. And they were retail at like 80 bucks. So they're cheap. I got them on eBay for $40. And they do sound decent and they last a long time. They're very cheap. And they don't have the hearing aid feature. So Beats is owned by Apple.
Right. Oh.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and continue. It's a little after 4 right now. I have one more short video to show, and then a longer one that I considered a bonus, which I suggest we just skip for this meeting. But the one that I'd like to show you is a minute and a half, and it relates to using vehicle motion cues on your iPhone or iPad. This is for people who get car sick. And if any of you have that problem, it may be helpful. I have an iPhone 14 Pro and I'm able to run it on that. But I haven't been in a car, you know, and I don't really get car sick, so I wouldn't be the right person to test them out. But go ahead and let's have a look at this minute and a half video.
Starting in iOS 18 and iPadOS 18, you can use vehicle motion cues, which can help reduce motion sickness when using your iPhone or iPad as a passenger in a moving vehicle. Here's how it works. In your accessibility settings, tap Motion. Tap Show Vehicle Motion Cues. Then tap to turn it on. On iPhone, you can also choose to show vehicle motion cues automatically when vehicle motion is detected. Now that it's on, let's see how vehicle motion cues works in an app like Books. Using sensors built into iPhone and iPad, vehicle motion cues recognizes when you're in a moving vehicle and responds accordingly. Animated dots on the edges of the screen represent changes in vehicle motion, which can help to reduce sensory conflict without interfering with the main content you're viewing. To make it easier to turn vehicle motion cues on and off, you can add it to the accessibility shortcut or to Control Center. Let's open Control Center and tap the Vehicle Motion Cues control. Now you can turn vehicle motion cues off or set it to turn on automatically in a vehicle. Enjoy the ride with vehicle motion cues. To find out more about the accessibility features on your Apple devices, subscribe to the Apple Support YouTube channel or check out our accessibility playlist to keep learning.
Yeah, my wife does get motion sickness, so we'll test it out one of these days. At any rate, any other comments?
No, when it works, it puts those dots on the screen and you have to look at the dots?
Well, I think what's happening is as you're making like a left turn, and your body is moving to the left in that way, somehow the dots.
So you do have to have it, you're looking at the phone all
Yeah,
the time.
it's like you're reading something on the phone or you're studying something on the phone. But I don't know if it works, but I have a hunch It might. So it'll be interesting.
It's not to counteract motion sickness in general. It's to counteract motion sickness while reading something while reading your phone
Right.
in a moving vehicle. And it has to do with the fact that your eyes are looking at a fixed object while everything is moving, while your ears are registering movement. And so somehow it's supposed to so your eyes are seeing the movement that your inner ears are sensing. But if somebody tends to get motion sick while looking at a phone, just don't look at the phone.
Stop reading.
Look out the window.
Yeah.
Hey, where would we be if we all took solutions like that, Kenji, huh?
It hurts when you do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Possibly it could help with something like a navigation app, maybe, which you have to look at while you're driving.
You have to look at a navigation app while you're driving?
Well, now somebody's driving.
Yeah.
Well, motion sickness is real.
Oh, yeah.
I used to get car sick. And it's not just a figment of somebody's imagination.
No, little kids get it and they puke. Little kids get it all the time and they puke.
Yeah.
So I took a guy to the airport the other day who said he put on like super dark sunglasses at night. And he said that he brought it up. He said, I'm putting on these, don't think I'm weird. He said, I wear dark glasses because the moving lights get me car sick. So dark glasses, even at night, helps me not get car sick. And I said to him, whatever keeps you from getting car sick is good with me.
Especially in your car, yeah.
Exactly.
I used to wear sunglasses at night because the lights would give me a headache, give me migraines. It was a trigger. I had to start wearing sunglasses to keep those bright lights down.
Well, it's also that strobe light effect if you're driving down the street and there's trees on one side, and the sun is just you're like there's this continuous strobe.
Oh yeah,
pointing in your direction. That helps.
If you're diabetic, that can cause a seizure. Epileptic. I'm sorry, not diabetic. If you're epileptic, that can cause a seizure.
So Joyce well,
never mind. Shall we go to the Q&A part of the meeting now? Or
yes.
Okay. Good. I will stop the share and thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.